Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Hello Gamer Nation and welcome to the Dice Ball Podcast Live Play Edition. I'm your host Ian Houlihan, better known as GM Hooli. This is an example play episode using the GeneSys Role Playing Game by Fantasy Flight Games. Our story this episode is set in the fantasy world of Mennara, on the continent of Terrinoth, made famous by the Runebound setting by Fantasy Flight Games. For those not familiar with the setting, you may wish to check out The Descent, Runebound or Rune Wars board games, the recently released Legacy of Dragonholt narrative adventure game, or even the Rune Wars miniatures game, all by Fantasy Flight Games. Before we start, I should mention that some parts of this episode are spent teaching the game to a new player. We love bringing new players into the hobby, and we would like to encourage you to do that in your games as we have in this episode. Plus, this is the perfect time to do that using this fantastic new system. This is the second part of a multi-part story arc, with the later chapters releasing shortly after this episode. If you haven't listened to part 1, we would highly recommend going back and listening to that first before tackling this episode. For announcements about the podcast, including further releases of this story arc, stay tuned to social media by searching Dice Ball Podcast or visiting us on the web at thediceballpodcast.com. In our last episode, the heroes happened across a small homestead besieged by bandits. Through some quick thinking and intimidation, the heroes managed to arrest the bandits and convince them to assist them in their investigation. It was soon discovered that the occupants of the homestead had been murdered prior to the bandits' arrival. It was only through the deductive reasoning of Ulma Grimstone, the dwarven alchemist, that the injuries sustained by the victims may have been caused by a powerful vampire. An examination outside also revealed that a carriage had been used by the perpetrators to escape the scene, with the tracks leading off in the direction of the haunted city of Nerrick Hall. What will our heroes find along the way? It's time to listen in and see what our players are up to. So you continue following the tracks. They're fairly easy to follow, and because you're on foot, you're not using any horses or anything like that at this point, are you? No, I don't think any of you have got horses on your carriage.
I don't have anything written down about horses.
Cool. So it takes you around about a day's travel. Okay, you're not quite at Nerrick Hall yet, and as the dusk starts to fall, you notice just in the distance, you can see there's massive, what was obviously at one point a tree. However, it's been split, possibly hit by lightning or something like that, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And there's an archway which has been built through the middle of this this massive tree. And just beyond the tree, you can see what looks like an inn. It has a nice sign just before it, which is called the Holloway Inn.
Oh. Not spooky and threatening at all.
No.
Not ominous.
Spooky or threatening at all. So this is dusk time, and you know that it's bad to travel at night. You can do. But obviously it's it's somewhat...
Not with vampires about.
No, not with vampires about, no. All right, so the inn looks quite comfortable, looks quite cozy. There's a nice soft light, a little bit flickering. There's some torches out the front.
Is there cheerful banter of people at the inn?
There appears to be, yes, absolutely. But the one thing that you do notice that's outside, you notice there's a pair of horses which are being tended to. They are fine horses, probably the finest that you've seen in some time, and they are white.
Ooh.
Is there happen to be a carriage parked outside?
There isn't a carriage parked outside, no.
Okay.
Would you happen to recognise what sort of rider would have one of these horses? Obviously someone with some renown or some variety?
At least a bit of money.
Certainly some money. You think that if maybe a noble, maybe a paladin or holy warrior or something like that would also, but two of them?
A better holla warrior
Oh,
than
that's my horse.
Trying to throw shade from the shade.
Yes.
So, they're being tended to, obviously by one of the stable hands. And he sort of like brushes down the horse and ties them up and then collects his belongings and heads off down the road. So, are you going inside the inn?
Basically, I don't want the bandits to have any excuse to run off, and I'd like them to stick around because it's a little bit of extra protection.
Sure.
I might see how much it would cost to room them.
Okay, so you're actually going to go in and speak to the barkeep?
Yep.
Okay. So you're doing that. Is everybody going to go into the inn, or is anybody walking around outside, or going to investigate?
It is a... Have I been to this inn before?
I don't know. Have you been to this inn before?
I don't think I have.
No. I don't think
It's not ringing any bells.
No, it's not ringing any bells.
No.
And strangely enough, when you open the door, a bell rings. You've walked in. I should have asked, actually, what everybody else is doing. So, Ulrich, what would you like to be doing?
So, Jurek is much more comfortable away from people. Crippling social anxiety is kicking in when he hears all the chatter happening inside of the tavern or inn that's on the side of the road. So, and he much prefers to be outside underneath the stars. So he's not going to go inside of the inn. He's going to stay outside and prepare for a night camping.
Wow.
So going to be looking around,
That's
walking around,
brave.
trying to find the nicest tree, because how he likes to sleep is up in the lowest branch, but up in the tree, and he's going to look for the nicest tree that he can strap himself into and sleep in for the night, because that's how he camps.
Okay. So
He's a very confused orc.
Vampires can't climb trees. Everyone knows this.
Well, I'm also thinking if he's kind of strapped to a tree, it's not going to be the most obvious place for people to be looking as an orc strapped to a tree sleeping. I hope he doesn't snore, though. He might be found. I don't know.
All right.
That'll be a despair later on.
This is bad.
So what actually happens is I flip a dark side. I
should have gone into the inn.
You are
Playing the
followed.
character.
You are followed by your orcish friend, who feels he has to make up for the problems that he caused previously, and so he's going to follow you out there.
Not okay. Awkward.
So he's sort of he's sort of kind of concerned that he made such a mess of things, and he wants to right things.
Okay.
He wants to help you out.
So as I'm walking out, I can hear footsteps behind me, and considering I am amazing at tracking, I can tell who's
You can
actually
tell it's
behind
an
me.
orc. And it's that smell that.
Oh, man.
An orc has a unique smell like a human does. So yes.
This is true. So he's going to basically grunt as he's continuing walking and be like,
You're brave coming out here.
Well, yes, but we're together.
Together.
Together, you know, like we're orcs. This is what we do. We hang out in tribes and things.
From what I recall of meeting you last time, you were more willing to betray your tribe than you were to be a part of it.
Well, I'm trying to make up for for that mistake. It'll never happen again.
Well, it was lucky that I came along as I did to prevent the activities you're about to take place, so you owe me a big one.
There is a snap of a twig or something in the nearby undergrowth.
I snap to where the sound was in terms of looking at it.
He snaps and looks over as well.
And I'm going to see what I can see in the direction of the twig snap.
Make a perception roll. The difficulty for this will be a hard perception check. So 3 purple dice, and you can also add a setback dice due to the darkness.
Okay. So I have 1 success and 1 threat.
So as you're peering through the dark forest, you can see a pair of eyes. And then we go back to the rest of you guys. So you were walking inside. And so what is Alice the Holy Warrior doing?
I believe she'd be walking into the inn, flanked by the bandits, following close behind.
Yep.
Because she's assumed some of a leadership role over those.
Yes.
So she'll instruct them to go find empty seats and make themselves quiet.
Ooh.
Busy
I'm
themselves.
thinking a leadership check might be really appropriate in this circumstance. Difficulty for this, well, look, I think it's going to be just 1 purple because you've clearly shown them who's boss.
Yep, 1 success, 1 advantage.
Wow, they do as they're told. They go and find some empty booths. The inn tonight isn't very busy at all. It's probably got. It is now. You as you sort of like walk in, you can see that there's a fairly elderly barkeep who sort of looks up and sees a mage and a holy warrior that. And this is not something they see very often,
And a group of bandits.
and a group of bandits, and a dwarf. So they're, he's sort of like, customers. There's a young lady who looks kind of a little bit forlorn at the moment. So she's not really sort of into a job at all. And she's just sort of like picking her arm. She's stooped a little bit. So she looks a little bit upset. The bartender, or the innkeep, should we say, that he sort of looks up and sort of clicks his fingers and says, "Esma, hurry up! See to these customers."
Yes.
And she wanders over and sort of starts taking orders for drinks, etc., from the bandits, as well as yourselves.
With my advantage, drinks happen to be half price tonight. However,
So it's happy night.
I instruct the bandits not to drink too much.
Oh,
You didn't tell me that.
Well, that's fine.
so yes, and that's not something you tell a dwarf to do anyway. So yes, flaming Lamborghinis it is. All right. So you've you walked in. The barkeep sort of says, weary travellers, what brings you to my fine inn?
Just passing through. We're off to the city yonder. We'd like some rooms for the night. Best not to travel at these sort of times.
Oh, but certainly, we have quite a number of rooms in our fine inn. It's some of the best in the area, he says. He's clearly lying. You don't even need to make a roll for that.
In fact, he's the only in the area.
In the area. So, he says, oh, look, it'll be a mere 5 silver a night.
Is that just for me or for our companions?
Oh, well look, we can seek to a room. Certainly, that will be 10 silver pieces for the three of you.
The bandits can take the stables. Need not spend cash on them.
Oh, they're staying as well?
Yes.
Are you sure? I'm sure that I can organise a group discount.
Well, how much would it be?
Well, all of you would fill my my entire inn. Look, I would suggest for the lot of you 20 silver.
All right. Should we split it?
You know I am an alchemist, right?
I would just like it noted that Jurek wasn't involved in these negotiations, and he is outside.
I think that we should put them up for the night because they're less likely to run off in the dark and go rob that poor house.
Correct. We should put them up for the night. Very well. I will split.
He looks pointedly over at the alchemist.
Yeah, but I could change it to gold.
I didn't hear that.
1 silver turned to gold would take care of everything.
This is true.
Well, it's not too much,
although
though.
highly illegal.
Well, I'm reckless is what I do.
All right. Now, as you're sort of discussing these sorts of things, you hear some commotion out the front of the building.
Do you hear that? It's commotion.
Commotion's bad.
Let's go after it.
Yes. We go and check it out.
All right. So you're just leaving the inn to go and take a look?
We'll be right back. I hear trouble brewing, and I don't want that about your establishment.
Oh,
I'll
only
quickly
good brewing that I've got. The mead out the back.
We'll be back for that.
We'll make sure my
I'll quickly
mead's ready.
slide. I'll quickly slide the money over to him, so
Right.
he's got his cash.
Sure. Oh, excellent. Right. He seems. He
Yeah.
sees the cash
not
there,
taking
and you
it
hear him
the easy way.
sort of like.
We'll
I'm a
hands
very
together and
inviting
rub
person. I can't not.
He puts his hands together and rubs his hand and
bites it to make sure it's real.
yes, it's real. It's those alchemists I've got to worry about. So
Troublemakers.
So yes. All right. So as you open the front door, you can see that there are a number of stable hands that appear to be pulling what looks like a carriage. Okay, to the front of the establishment, and they're hooking up the horses in front.
The white horses?
The white horses.
This carriage, is it ornate?
It is quite ornate.
Does it look heavily laden?
It doesn't look heavily laden, no.
Do I get a divine with one of those?
Ooh, do you get a disturbance in the
Does
magic?
does the chariot ooze a sickening evil? With my divine sense?
So,
If I
are you
flip
going
if
to
I
flip a story point?
Yep.
Okay, so you flip a story point. You sort of, for a moment, there was a disturbance, but then all of a sudden, there's a greater disturbance from directly behind you. Outside, back in the forest. So you see these eyes. They're basically just they seem to be burrowing into your very soul. The Orag, the orc, he basically sort of, you can see him. He sort of moves a little bit closer to you. Gingerly draws his sword.
Have you ever fought? What's that?
If I knew what that was, precisely, and I hope it's not what I think it is, no.
And I do pull out both of my daggers.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So at this point, what we might do is we might go to initiative.
Okay.
Okay, so what happens in initiative, this is obviously a part of combat, okay? So what happens is that you roll your vigilance skill, but you kind of knew that maybe something was coming, so you can make a cool check.
Oh, we're on cool instead of vigilance?
Not for you guys, okay?
We're not
but
involved.
you guys aren't sort of necessarily involved at this point. So this is just the orc. So cool.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. 0-3.
0-3. Okay, so the way that it works is that you make a simple check. So with difficulty levels, okay, where I mentioned before that there's an easy check, which is 1 purple die, and an average check is 2, hard is 3. We've also got a simple check where there's no purple dice at all. Okay, so you just make a simple check, roll those 2. Now, for initiative, all that we need to know is how many successes you have and how many advantages you have. Okay, so the way that initiative works is that it goes from the highest number of successes, and then advantages are used as a tiebreaker. Okay, so if you've got 2 people and they've got 2 successes each, but one person has got 3 advantages and the other person has only got 1, well, obviously the person with the 2 advantages, the 3 advantages would get to go first. But PCs always trump everyone. So the player characters, if there's a tie, they will always get to go first. Okay. Now the other interesting thing with this system, and this is more for the listeners, but also to show you as well, Madeline, that it's as opposed to other role-playing game systems where you have a set value and that's basically where you go in the game, in the combat. In this, you don't. You basically just have players and NPCs. And so that means you can sort of mix things up and allows a little bit more fluidity when it comes to telling the story of who goes in a scene. So in this case, I better roll some dice, which is a huge number of 0-2. Ooh. Okay. But our orc friend, who was also going to go, he has 1. So he goes at the end. Yeah, he's going to be a player character for the purpose of this exercise.
Did he have 1 success or 1?
He had no successes and 1 advantage.
Yep.
Okay. So you or he get to go first. What would you like to do?
How far away is
You
it?
think it's around about medium range.
So what is medium ranging?
Okay, so let's talk about range bands in the GeneSys game. Basically, there are 5 different range bands, namely engaged, short, medium, long, and extreme range. Engage range, which is where you can be touching another person, or as the name suggests, engaged in a melee with someone. Or a good way to determine engaged is if you could hear me if I was whispering to you. Short range, which is close by but you're unable to touch. A good example of that is where if I can talk to you normally, that you could hear me clearly. So for short range, you may be in the same room. With medium range, that's a short run away from someone to another person. The example I like to use if the only way you could hear me clearly would be if I had to raise my voice for you to be able to hear. Long range, that's a much greater distance. Using my voice, again as an example, I would have to shout for you to be able to hear me clearly. Another example may be one character separated from another character by a field. And lastly, there is extreme range. Now this is some considerable distance away, and maybe, as far as an example, you could probably barely hear me if I was yelling at you across a football field, for example. So it may also be like a city block or something like that. So normally what happens in combat is that you have an action and you have a maneuver, all right? You can decide to change your action into a maneuver so that you have 2 maneuvers, or you can do 2 maneuvers and an action, and for the second maneuver, you would take 2 points of strain. So effectively, you're pushing yourself to the limits, all right?
And as a general rule of thumb, without having to go through the rulebook and learning what's what, a maneuver is anything that you could do without really thinking about, like walking to one side of the room or the other. Whilst an action is something you have to think about, like shooting a weapon, scaling the side of a rocky mountain face, and you have to apply effort to is an action.
Yep.
That's your general way to
Exactly.
rule them out.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So this is probably just a good example of a short comment. So, what is the orc doing?
Okay. So, looking at Jurek and how I feel he is as a person, he is going to identify that there's a threat, and being him in the wilderness and ruling with knowing his skills and his feelings is going to eliminate that threat as quickly as possible.
Sure.
He also doesn't like supernatural things, so his fear is also fueling him to act recklessly in order to try and mitigate whatever threat is actually coming towards him. So he is going to yell, and he's going to run and sprint right at the eyes.
Wow.
In order to do a large jump and double daggers down in the direction of the eyes.
Right.
Like,
So from Orag's perspective, you've basically just bolted straight towards the forest and disappeared into the dark undergrowth.
yeah,
Cool.
to attack.
All right. So you get to the darkness, and you see right before you as you leap into the undergrowth. You see this large, black, foul-smelling animal with huge, big razor teeth. It looks like, for all intents and purposes, a wolf or some oversized wolf. But the first thing you notice when you get there is the smell. The smell is putrid, like rotting flesh.
He's going to sigh a little bit of relief that it's not actually a vampire and that it is a wolf, because wolves he understands and wolves he's familiar with, but he's knowing that Steelix has gone pretty much Anchorman. I immediately regret my decision right now.
In fact, you notice as you get right up close next to this thing, you can see that part of its face has obviously been torn off by another animal at one point, and you can see the exposed bone.
So I know where to attack.
That's its weak spot.
Sorry, I thought you were giving me a hint about something. No.
All right, so
Okay.
you go to attack. So an attack against this particular creature is going to be 2 purple die, like it is for any melee attack.
Okay, so using my daggers in melee is using my melee light. So
Are you attacking with both daggers?
I am.
So you would increase the difficulty.
Okay. So that would be dual wielding a weapon.
May perform a maneuver to decrease the difficulty of the next combined combat check to attack with 2 weapons by 1 during the same
Oh,
turn.
that's
cool.
an impressive ability.
But
Then, as well, dual strike.
Oh,
When attacking with 2 weapons, the character may suffer 2 strain to hit with the secondary weapon instead of spending successes.
successes.
2 successes from the looks of it.
No,
Okay.
that should be advantage.
I
Wait,
think
Might
they're-
be
Wait,
advantage.
the symbols are different.
yeah, that's the advantage symbol.
It is the advantage
It
symbol.
is the advantage symbol.
So rather than spending 2 advantage, I can attack with the second weapon.
Nice.
Cool.
At the cost of strain.
Yes.
That's cool.
Correct.
So
That is very cool.
And the strain as well to perform a maneuver. So can I actually do that if I'm running to engage with him?
Yep.
Is that going
No,
to...
because you were at medium range, so
Yeah.
moving from where you were to medium range,
Yep.
that's going to be 2 maneuvers.
Okay.
So you're going to be spending 2 strain anyway to do this attack.
So I can't... So the difficulty will increase then.
yes.
Yep. No, not an upgrade. Just
Not an upgrade?
Yep.
Just another
so that'll
purple.
be 3 purple dice.
Okay. Okay, hold on. I'm just reading some of the stuff. May add setback to a melee check in order to deal +2 damage with 1 hit.
Wow.
How does that work?
Okay, so you would add a setback die to the attack. to do more damage by the sound of it. So what does that actually say?
It's a bit of a gamble.
May add setback to a melee check in order to deal +2 damage with one hit.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can make it more difficult.
Not at the moment. I'm good.
I like it.
So basically, you
interesting.
increase your chances of failure in order to add +2 if
like-
you succeed.
Like a reckless attack.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
called Battle Rage. So.
Battle
Yeah.
Rage.
That's why you've had the ability to remove setback dice from your melee attacks.
Oh, look at that.
That's what I've been looking for this entire time, is to remove those setbacks, because that is a very handy skill. All right, let's see how we go. I missed my... Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well done.
So, I do have one threat. That seems to be the common theme for my rolling tonight. So, one threat, but 3 successes.
Wow. Okay, so you've connected hard with this thing.
Yes.
Have you rolled any advantages? No, it was a
No.
threat, so you don't get to take that second action. That's the end.
Well, it's going to happen, though. And it's going to be glorious when it
That's
does.
okay.
Okay. So, my damage on my dagger is 4.
4? Yep.
Yep. And then 3 successes on top of that. So,
So it does 7 points of damage.
yes.
Excellent.
With accurate 1. What does that
And-
mean?
Oh, you roll boost dice.
So you
You
can
should roll the boost die, yeah.
0.
Right.
but you can now spend 2 strain to hit with that second dagger as well, can't you?
No,
No.
because you've got to do it as a maneuver.
No, it was when attacking the character myself, choose to hit with the
Oh,
secondary
it's
weapon.
part of the same
Oh,
ability.
wait.
No?
No.
You
When
can do it.
yes, when
Once you do
attacking
it.
with 2 weapons, the character may suffer 2 strain to hit with
Wow.
a secondary weapon instead of spending. That's
Oh,
the bit.
instead.
It's in commas.
Yeah.
Does that
No,
mean?
no,
That
that's
means-
right.
that
So
means you can do
basically,
it. You do it.
instead of doing the
Brackets.
advantages. Yeah, absolutely.
So you,
Okay.
can, you can do that
You
right
can
now.
do that.
Let's
You can
do that. I'm
spend
going to
some
suffer
strain.
4
That's
strain.
cool.
Wow, that's amazing.
That is really
This
good.
is a, Whew, okay.
Gunslinger
So I
for
roll
daggers.
again. The same roll?
Yep. So it's
No,
just
no.
no. You've
just-
rolled. So
you've hit.
You've
14
hit.
damage?
So no, you do
Ah.
2 lots of 7 points of damage.
Okay.
Right.
So
Make sense?
because the soak has to be considered.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right. So what happens is the
Unfortunately.
soak comes off each of those attacks.
Yes.
Right. So there were 7. For the purpose so that everybody knows what we're doing. So basically, they have a soak of 4. All right. So that means
impressive.
that's still impressive.
I look majestic.
You too.
I
You sort of
think it
like
turns-
glide through the air.
Yeah. Full like Conan,
Blades dancing.
blades, any of that. That's what he looks like.
And you just basically come straight down on top of it with both daggers. Nice. That's
Yes.
All right, so this thing sort of like just growls at you, okay? And
Just growls.
It growls with this deep sort of, and it goes to attack you. What is your melee defense, please?
It's 7. No, I'm lying. It's 0.
So you
I
have
wish it was 7 right now.
right. So you have 0.
0 melee defense.
Okay. All right. So these guys have a brawn of 4, and a brawl of 2. So they're attacking, and so that's going to be 2 purple dice. So that is going to be a hit with 3 advantages. Okay. So this thing has taken this big bite down with its fangs, and it has done a total of 8 points of damage to you. Okay. So you minus your soak.
Yes.
All right.
And
Yes.
I also take 2 strain in order to parry.
Oh.
So when hit by a melee attack, I take 3 strain to reduce damage by 3.
So this is
I don't know if that's worth it just yet. I might save that.
Save
'Cause
that for
I'm,
the moment?
Yeah, I'm going to save that because I've just looked at my wounds and it's fine.
okay. You're a hardy orc.
Yeah.
So that's all good.
I'll save that for when I actually need it. But
How much
that
soak
is
do
a
you
thing.
have?
4. So I take 4 points of damage.
Okay, so you take 4 points of damage. The other thing as well is that it had 3 advantages, so it does actually cause a critical wound to you as well.
Of course it does. Because we have to test the system.
We have to test the system. Absolutely. All right, so the damage for this, it's a huge number. Oh my God, it's an amazing number. Be prepared to... I rolled 3. So... all right, so you've had a minor nick. Because obviously we don't have the full system, so we're just going to use the critical rating from Star Wars Role Playing Game. So your minor nick basically means that you take a point of strain. Huge, isn't it?
Are you okay?
This was my most favourite tunic, and it's now been ripped. So he understands the fashion.
So clearly it just wasn't ready for you to be coming in and attacking the way that it did, and the way that you did. And so it sort of tried to tear it at you. Obviously grabbed a bit of flesh, but not too much. All right. So our friendly orc, he is what's he going to do? So he's going to basically he's going to go in and he's going to follow you because he was trying to make up for the mistake that he made previously. So he's going to go in and he's going to attack. This is going to be interesting. I might actually get Martin to roll this check if that's cool.
Sure.
Okay, so he has a brawn of 3, and that's it because he's a minion.
Okay.
So the difficulty of this check is going to be 2 purple dice. Now it is into the darkness, and that's something I did forget. So that's a setback die for him.
And was there any defense for this creature?
No, it doesn't have any defense rating. No.
Well, this is all I've got, so let's go. He rips at a new one.
Wow.
He has 3 successes and 1 threat.
Excellent. Okay.
So he's if you don't mind me spinning
please,
there.
go right ahead.
His heart is pounding. He is not used to this sort of fight, and he will take some strain in this case.
Yeah, so
damage.
he's taking how much strain? 1 point of strain? Okay. So he has a grand total of... how many wounds does he have? He's got a soak of 3 and a wound threshold of 4. Just so that you're aware of that. So yeah, he's basically... His pitter-patter of his heart... Yeah, he's
almost having a heart attack.
He's almost having a heart attack.
I can't believe I'm doing this for my friend.
I just wanted some linens.
I'm so cold at night.
That's how you guys became friends, with your passion for fashion.
No. I know what happened. These two originally like a design duo.
And he took credit for one of your designs.
No. You think that she did. So he had to leave a bandit life to get by, stealing linen so he could possibly craft new outfits in his workshop. But yet again, you've wandered out of the darkness.
See, I told you we'd know all about his history by the end of the session.
So he got 3 successes.
He
So
got
how
3
much
successes.
damage does
Okay,
he do?
so the amount of damage that he does is that he has... he's just got a little mace, and it does 6 damage.
It's like the pepper spray mace. While he's blowing his rake whistle.
Oh
Dear, right. It's the last time I used the word little mace.
I do like a tiny little mace as well. So.
It's like a keychain.
Well, he did an impressive 9 damage.
Well, he
with
did
it,
an impressive
so-
9. So it's not just a little mace; it's a big mace. All right, so it crushes down onto the head of this creature, doing 9 points of damage. You said, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's going to be a total of 5 points of damage. Wow. He is not well. Okay. All right, so you've come crashing down. In the meantime, you guys who were out the front, so you've just got to the doorway, and you can see the carriage basically being brought round, and the horses are being all hitched up. You immediately turn at this point because you've got that sort of strange dread feeling. Directly behind you, coming down the stairs, of the inn from the upper level, obviously where the rooms and whatever else are, is a very tall, lanky woman, quite beautiful in appearance, with long blonde hair, and she is flanked by two large burly guards.
They wouldn't happen to be wearing like heavy armor type thing.
They are wearing heavy armor, surprisingly.
All right. I would ask you to stop there, please, if you could, my lady.
She continues walking. And who are you, may I should ask?
I am Marshal of the Citadel. There you go. I'm a Marshal of the Citadel.
Yes, Marshal. And what is it that you think that you have discovered?
I simply want to ask you some questions.
Ask questions. I'll be more than happy
We're
to help.
travelling at night and dangerous times.
Well, I have an urgent matter that I must be in Nerrick Hall by the morning.
Nerrick Hall. I see. Is that your coach?
That is my coach, yes.
It's odd that you should mention or think that we discovered something. That's.
But in my line of work, I discover the most guilty people are usually the first to...
All we said is we wanted to ask some questions.
Please ask them. I'm more than happy to assist.
What is it you think we might have discovered?
I don't know. I mean, you're obviously someone of law and...
I won't be around the bush. Where were you last night?
I was in my carriage coming from the city to the north.
And where was your carriage?
It was with me. I was in my carriage.
Did you stop at a small townhouse? Farmhouse?
Oh, yes, a homestead. I did, yes.
And are you aware that everyone in that homestead is now deceased?
Unfortunately, yes, I do.
And we're going to report this to anyone?
Well, obviously I was, as soon as I reached Nerrick Hall.
But you have met a marshal, and the first words that you say are, "What have you discovered?" Not, "I would like to report a crime."
Oh, well.
My friend does have a fair point.
Oh, of course, I was merely shocked.
Can we make some
You
sort of a check?
certainly can make a check to see whether she's absolutely...
Being genuine.
Whether she's being genuine. Absolutely.
No, I believe her.
I've got negotiation skill.
Yeah?
I've got negotiation,
Okay.
and I don't know what
Do you have any vigilance?
Vigilant. No. No vigilance.
Well, you can still roll your willpower. So that's 3 dice, which is pretty good.
Difficulty?
Okay, so the difficulty for this... so you're trying to work out whether she's lying, effectively. To see whether she's being genuine in her responses.
Or being evasive.
Or being evasive? Okay. Well, I mean, she's a noble. Of course she's being evasive. She's a noble. It's nobody else's business what nobles are up to.
And also, Mel, just remember that just because you don't have ranks in that skill, you can still use it, because even
Absolutely.
sometimes failing
Yeah.
can add some really cool elements to the story. So
End of the day, ranks only mean you turn green dice into yellow dice, and there's not a massive difference between the two dice, other than the fact that the yellow dice has this symbol. And and maybe a few more extra successes on it, but not a whole lot. So always give a skill a crack, even if you're not necessarily great at it.
The difficulty for this is going to be 4 purple dice.
Shall we roll one at a time?
Now, you guys aren't nobles either, so you can have a setback die as well. So
Could
yes, you can certainly.
I have
Could I
a
have a
proper
boost? Sorry?
I have a proper upbringing.
Oh, a proper upbringing. Okay, well you can ignore that purple dice. Sorry, that setback dice. So otherwise, it's 4 purple dice. So this is a daunting check.
Could I have a boost for the fact that we sort of caught her flat-footed and I'm of the law?
Yeah, absolutely. Have a boost.
All right. Do we want to roll one at a time so we can feed each other's rolls?
Yep,
potentially?
definitely, absolutely.
I think of the high skill. Do you want me to roll first?
I think so.
All right.
That's not looking good.
My net result will be 1 threat.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
she seems quite genuine.
All right. Should I roll next?
Sure, absolutely. I can never remember your character's name.
Alice.
Alice, thank you.
She can remember your name.
All right, so yes, that's true. Yes, Alice basically seems to. She looks convinced, and if anybody is not going to be convinced, it's Alice.
She's the one that normally has this sort of a sense about
that
things.
gut sort of feeling, absolutely. So you can have a setback die, I think.
I thought so. All right, so I'll roll. So I have failed. However, I do have that proper upbringing, which also has an ability attached to it.
Ooh, and what does that do?
I may suffer 1 strain to add an advantage to a social skill check.
Sure.
So I'll take that, which means that in total I have 2 advantage to pass along to Ulma.
Cool. So Ulma makes so the difficulty to this is 4 purple dice. So for this, you are making a vigilance check. So you just assemble your pills to work out what that is with your 4 purple dice. Now you're not from noble background, so you can add a setback die as well. So that's a black dice. Yep.
But something I has said
Yes, but
has
something is
unnerved her.
Exactly. So something. So you can have 2 boost die.
How many black die was there? There was 1 from the original one, and then 1
You good to go?
for.
No, it's just the
Just the
one
one?
for basically the fact that.
I was lying to you. Just the one.
So I was right the first
You
time.
were.
right.
This is why you should never listen to me.
Don't trust her.
Just don't.
I just rolled.
Yep, absolutely.
So your end dice result is 4 threats.
All right, so 4 threats.
Not quite as big.
Wow. So you're actually a little bit intimidated by her as well. Okay, so you're going to take 4 strain.
Oh, yay.
You're very intimidated by this woman.
She's so fancy.
She is so fancy.
And she's so tall.
And you're not.
She is quite elegant. So yeah. Now, so she seems quite genuine in her responses.
Well, it would seem that we shouldn't be holding up any further for tonight.
Oh, of course, if there's...
But I would strongly suggest you keep your travel to the daylight hours. There is a threat lurking in this area, and it would be very unfortunate if you were to be attacked by it.
My men-at-arms are very, very well trained. They're more than happy to protect me. Very loyal they are, aren't you? And they just sort of look and nod.
So the thing is it awkward? This is a tricky situation in any RPGs when all the evidence points to this person being a big fibber, but you fail that check.
Yes.
Look, it is always the case whether there's a problem with that. However, with any sort of experienced gamers will tell you that you can actually just play along with a failed check. But it doesn't mean that, as players, there's something that's not quite right. And that can almost drive the story forward as well.
Yeah.
So
We believe her, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we don't think something's a little
Yeah.
bit
No, exactly
But
right.
the thing is, what's got my character stumped is she can lie like a champ all day long, but the fact is her coach is oozing a black
Yes. We can't ignore that.
Yeah, exactly. So
Maybe it's not her. Maybe it is one of her guards that is
possibly,
actually the vampire.
or she may very well know more
Then she's
about
letting
it.
on.
Or the coach is evil.
Or the coach is the vampire.
Yeah. And this,
It's the evil
Yes,
coach.
There might be more there.
Transformers.
It's
More
become
than meets the eye.
yeah, it's become like a ridiculous Cinderella situation where like the carriage was originally an evil pumpkin and is turning into a vampire.
Halloween version.
Yes. This needs to be a novel. This is my creative writing.
Get on it.
All right, so, do you let her go at this point?
Well, honestly, from our perspective, she's got no. I guess from a marshal's perspective, we have no evidence other than the fact that she admitted she passed through and stopped to the village at the homestead. Could one last question before you leave?
As she sort of reaches the door. Yes, sir.
Why did you stop at the homestead?
Well, one of my horses actually blew a shoe. And we went there seeking assistance. Unfortunately, we found the 3 occupants deceased. I panicked and I immediately came here.
Okay. Immediately came here.
To an inn on our way to Nerrick Hall.
Did you arrive before the sun arose?
Did we arrive before the sun arose? No, we arrived fairly much on daylight.
Oh, I just assumed because you're travelling at night. I assumed you're travelling at night time. So,
Well, yes, there's less traffic on the road and what have you. May I go now? Thank you, ma'am. And she basically turns around and leaves.
perhaps we'll see you again at Nerrick Hall.
Perhaps not. And she continues on. All right. So, meanwhile, outside, you from inside, you hear this sort of almighty howl from the distance.
We go charging off to the aid of our companion. Wow.
Well, you're
To see
unsure
what it
if the
is.
howl is Jurek or something else, because there's a lot of howling going on.
It doesn't sound orc-like, but yeah, it sounds like...
I've been fooled before.
It's, that just sounds disturbing. As someone breaks Caitlin. Okay, right, so... It's a trap!
It's so bad to keep that laughing. Oh my god. It's...
Oh dear. Alright, so, outside.
That's so horrible on so many levels.
Alright, so outside, you have the initiative. What are you doing?
So I've stabbed it.
You have
And
stabbed
it is not happy with me.
And Orug has stabbed it as well. Well,
Yep.
bashed it around the head with his little mace.
So with both of my blades, I'm going to basically do a twirl,
Yep.
so that each time when I turn around, low down to the ground, trying to get visually what I'm trying to get at, he's attacking him again melee, but he's doing it crouched down and swirling and doing.
Cool.
Trying to do both. I'm trying to use both of my daggers in a very cool way. So let's just imagine that I said that,
I can see that.
and that's what it's
All right, so you're spinning sort of in a top-like fashion, slicing as you connect with the creature's hide.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound all right?
Yeah,
That's
perfect.
So there.
If we could do that for the rest of the session, that would be great. I just want to do something cool.
Sure.
Ian takes over.
Sure. Go for
So,
it. All right, so 2 purple dice.
2 purple? Mm-hmm. Okay, and darkness?
It is darkness, yes.
Of course it did. Okay, so this isn't as pretty as I would normally like, but it's 1 straight success.
1 straight success.
Now, after engaging an enemy, I can suffer 2 strain. Oh, damn. I should have done that before. So after engaging an enemy, may suffer 2 strain to add two successes and 2 advantages to the next melee attack this turn.
Oh, wow.
So I should have done that before I rolled. Next time, that's what I'm going to be doing.
Cool, that's all right.
So, but what I will be doing is suffering 2 strain. Can I do that again, or is that like a 1-use thing? It doesn't say 1 use.
You can do it again.
You can do it again. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So I should try and do as much damage as I can. I'm going to take another 3.
A long combat would strain you out pretty quick.
yeah,
strain.
absolutely.
2 strain, isn't it?
No, it's 3 strain to use 2.
Yeah, I believe it was.
Was it? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
what was the 3 strain one?
3 strains parry.
Yeah, 3 strength parry.
I'll take 2 strain then. That's all
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
Does that mean that you spent a little bit extra last time as well?
Possibly, but I'm not going to remember to go back, so we'll just keep it as
Okay.
is.
We're learning this system as we go as well. So that's all good.
And we're also learning that I am incredibly bad at mathematics and reading.
Math hard.
Yeah, which is pretty much the core of tabletop gaming. Math and reading. Right.
So you've struck it twice.
So I've struck it twice with 1 success, just a straight success, no additional advantages.
Cool.
So yeah, 5 damage.
Wow. Okay.
With twice.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, 2 damage.
So 2 damage. All right. So it
I-
yelps in pain a little bit, but not a lot.
I
Yes.
apologise because I have accurate
Accurate.
1.
Oh, you may do more damage. And,
No, but I do have two advantages.
Right.
So that
Which I don't have to suffer strain because I can just use 2 advantages to attack.
So you can get some strain back. Something that you can do with advantages. You can. I know that's pretty boring. But what is your critical on your weapon?
3.
could... Oh, so close.
So close. So
yeah,
close.
so you can get some strain back, or you could give a boost die to Aura.
Nah.
Aura.
I need my strain because I'm taking strain to do double attacks with my dual
Yeah.
wield. So I need it. He doesn't.
Absolutely. As Mike
He
said
can make it on his own in the fashion industry. He doesn't need my support anymore. It's time to cut the cord.
As Mike said before, obviously, that's a character that will be heavy on the strain as far as activating abilities and whatever else. So
Yes.
it basically turns tail and runs back into the forest.
As it runs away, I yell at it triumphantly. I'm taking that as a win.
It
So
seems to
he's
be
just
sort
like,
of...
"Ah," into nothing now.
And Aura goes,
Oh, we got him! There we got him!
Stop touching me.
all right, at this point, your companions basically run up to see what the commotion was about.
That's enough time for it to disappear into the darkness.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you're going to follow it.
No, I'm not going to follow it. It's not a vampire. It's not what I'm here to do.
All right.
What was it?
It was a local pest.
A local pest.
Well, actually, I'm going to use my venturing
Knowledge adventuring, yeah.
To
I'd even
see if I know.
allow knowledge... allow survival even, maybe.
Let's do survival.
Okay.
Because I kind of think
'Cause
I
that's
need
your
to know
go-to
what I'm
skill.
talking about here.
Absolutely.
Okay. And what would be the difficulty?
So
of
the
this check?
difficulty for this is going to be 3 purple die. Because it's a hard check. These things aren't common.
But I did get up really close to
You
it.
did get up really close.
So I was able to get a pretty good size and feel for it. So could that potentially
Maybe-
be a boost?
And also the blood from your weapons. You could be
Yes.
sniffing that and seeing if you recognise.
A little bit on the tongue.
Yes. Just all that you need is those fava beans, and you'll be fine.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Succeeded.
I have a very interesting role here.
Right, here we
So
go.
I have 2 successes, one of them being a triumph.
Wow, can you stop
This is
that?
the best session I've ever had in my life when it comes to triumphs. I think I've never rolled like this other than playing Vixto in a character in another game.
Yep.
Anyway, so 2 successes, one of those being a triumph with 4 threats.
Wow.
So I'm feeling with some of those threats the fact that I remember this creature and I remember it well. And because I was feeling fearful before, but as soon as I saw it, I was even more fearful because I've had an encounter with it before.
Ooh, and it's rattled you to the point that
Yeah.
your next check, you're going to have 2 setback die.
Yeah. Because I'm having like flashbacks to the last time. Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. Yeah.
You know this particular creature is called a barghest. They are basically an undead wolf.
Should have chased after it.
Are they commonly found around vampires by any chance?
We should ask the vampire expert that kind of information.
With your triumph, if you'd like to me to spend that, I can certainly make a suggestion.
Well, for the purposes of this, yeah, I would
Sure.
think that would be
Okay.
very appropriate because I have no idea how to use a triumph about
With a knowledge check?
with a knowledge check about
Right.
the beast.
Sure.
beast.
Well, basically, you know that they are not naturally occurring, obviously, that they are normally created by other bug nests, or they can also be like the servants of undead, like vampires and things like that. Definitely.
My.
So once as I'm sharing this information with the group, I'll end that with, and it's not.
It is very strange that we would find something here without it being accompanying something else.
At this point, you also hear a "Yeah!" The carriage basically goes off down the road towards Nerrick Hall.
I almost feel like we should be following her.
You haven't rested in a
haven't
day.
rested.
That's another thing to take into consideration as well.
However, perhaps our alchemist friend knows of a brew that could keep us alert throughout the night.
Yes.
Have you heard of a herb called guarana?
Well, I do have a certain elixir that can keep you awake while drinking as much meat as you like.
This is why she's a part of our adventure team.
Oh, it's a serious suggestion. Could she use her alchemy to perhaps make a drink that will keep us alert and awake throughout the night?
Certainly, she could give that a go. Absolutely.
So I'm alcheming right now.
Yes. So you're looking at the top of your skill sheet, which is your intelligence. Yeah, you got that. You know what you're doing.
Basically, in this circumstance, there are no rules that I have access to in regards to this. So, as a GM, this is basically, I mean, you may have some abilities at the back of your character sheet. That's something
It
else
seems
as
well within the realm of alchemy to be able
Absolutely.
to craft something like
Absolutely.
coffee.
And I think this is something which is unique to this system for a start, is that you can make stuff up on the fly. If it seems legitimate, do it. It doesn't need to have a specific rule for it. So I'm happy to allow that. It's not something which would be common. I think it'd be quite hard to do. And you don't really have a lot of ingredients at the moment.
Actually,
Yes.
she does.
Oh.
Because in her personal gear, she has an alchemist kit.
Yeah, she'll,
Oh.
she'll have a full kit.
Yeah.
So
And
that's-
healing herbs.
Okay.
So it sounds like the right tools
Yeah,
for the
she
job.
has the right tools for the job, absolutely. That's certainly
Okay.
to coin a rule from Star Wars. Yes.
Okay. But
What's your ranks in alchemy?
my rank is 2.
2? So
Yep.
That's right. That's right.
You're an
That's right.
expert already.
There you go. Look at that.
See?
And because you've got the right tools for the job, you've got your kit and all of that for alchemy. Yep.
So you get a boost die.
And I would almost suggest as well that this might be an important story point.
Sure, to keep the
You might
story
even
flowing,
have some
absolutely.
special herbs or something that specifically for this type of purpose that you can include to get an upgrade by spending a story point. It's up to you though.
Well, so you've got an upgrade for having the right tools for the job. Does she get an upgrade for having healing herbs as well?
No, just the one boost die for that.
Okay. So you can choose to spend one of those points to turn
So that's one of the
these
story
things
points.
into
Yep.
another yellow. What would be the difficulty of this?
The difficulty, it's going to be a hard check.
It's
So
gonna be
that's going to be
hard?
3 purple dice.
So that's the pool you're looking at.
Oh. I'm like a group decision here.
go for it. I'm happy.
Just go, yeah.
There to be used.
They're there to be used.
Okay. I would like to flip that.
Sure,
Please.
absolutely.
The story.
But you've probably actually never ever tried this recipe before, though, or maybe you did, and one time you really messed it up really badly.
I couldn't sleep for a year.
So you couldn't sleep for a year. Excellent.
Stunted her growth.
You've created V. Excellent.
So it was a hard check, yeah?
Yep.
So we flipped it over.
Yeah.
And then Ian slipped it back, being GM, which means that the opposite of what you've just done has taken place. So one purple turns into a red.
Very good.
Just don't
That
roll
look,
inspect.
Yeah.
that look could melt steel beams.
I think Madeline is just realizing the travesty of that dice pool system.
Yes.
God damn, why did we make group decisions?
Ian could have flipped it back regardless.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
if he chose not to, he still could have done it. And you'd have been...
Yeah.
So the other thing to take into consideration as well, and the reason why that system is like that, so that there is this bit of, I mean, in the Star Wars role-playing game, they call it the ebb and flow of the Force, where it's good and dark that basically sort of, work their way through the galaxy. In this, obviously, it enables you guys to do certain things, but obviously it has to not remain on my side. So the aim of the exercise is obviously for me to flip it back. So as much as I would like to apologise, I'm not gonna. So yeah, your call.
Okay, well,
You can do this.
Okay.
Well, there isn't a despair, so
Just go through one at a time.
Dirt. Perfect. Okay, so it looks like I have 2 advantages and 1 failure.
right. So you haven't been able to make the brew as quickly. Maybe you're sort of a little bit because you've left the red die as the one, and I mentioned the reason why it turned into a red die before, and this is the way that narrative dice can be used to further tell the story. You've left the red die, so you're sort of, your hands are shaking. You just don't want to create that thing that people won't be able to sleep for a week again. So that's the reason why you've sort of been unable to complete the job. However, what would you like to do with the advantages, though?
One of the advantages is I'm not sure. I have no. Would I be able to produce a potion that allows us to still have as much meat as possible and not get a hangover the next day?
Absolutely. You certainly can do that. You
Silver
certainly can do
linings.
that. Very good. So you've successfully managed to find an
Hangover.
anti-hangover drug. Lovely.
It makes your liver work overtime, so it processes the alcohol like immediately.
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah.
Absolutely. At which point you hear a scream coming from inside the inn.
I'm getting tired of this. And I run back.
All right, so you race in, and you can see that some of the barkeeper, you just catch sight of him racing up the stairs, and some of the other people which are there. There's a couple of gnomes who they're sort of like looking up the stairs, and they've got like this bag that one of them is carrying, and all of a sudden a mouse drops out and scurries across the ground, and the gnomes go, Terrence! And basically races off to get the mouse. There's a couple of other people there. There's a stoic dwarf, and there's another orc that sort of was over in the corner. He hasn't moved at all, and he seems to be sort of sitting there and writing something on parchment. Right, but anyway, up the stairs. What are you guys doing?
Charge up the stairs to see what the
Okay, you
screen's
charge
about.
up the stairs, and you can see that as soon as you sort of get to the top of the stairs, there's a room with a door open. The light from a lamp or a torch is basically shining through, and you can see the barkeep is basically sort of, his mouth is agape. He's looking inside the room. He's going, oh my. And he sort of turns around and vomits all over the ground. You race up to the door. You can see the young barmaid who was obviously cleaning up the room that our noble friend has just left. And she has found a dead body, drained of all blood, shoved underneath the bed.
Classy.
She's crying. She's in hysterics. What are you doing?
We pursue.
Well, whose room was this?
And the barkeep goes, oh, the noble.
The tall noble. Always.
It's always the tall ones.
Good sir, do you have any horses you could lend a marshal of the Citadel.
Yes, and anything to help the law, definitely.
We'd best get after her.
Jurek is standing very awkwardly, still with blades drawn, and trying to comfort the handmaiden with just a pat on the shoulder with his presence of one.
Right.
She
Wouldn't
cries
happen to have a
harder.
miniature horse now, would you?
All right. So yes, he offers you the best horses from his stable.
Excellent.
With one miniature horse.
With one miniature horse. With a pony.
Yeah.
As we leave, I'll tell the bandits
Yep.
to meet us at our destination.
Yes, sir.
I just shook my head. That's never gonna...
Cool. Awesome.
Do I have a feeling they will...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've built a bit of a rapport with them already, so...
You interrupted Orog telling the story of our amazing fight out in the forest, and they're all like super eager to continue Kaying with us.
Tune in for part 2.
Yeah.
And we've paid for their room for the
Yeah.
night.
Exactly.
And
All right, and so yes, the stable hands, they basically go and grab the horses ready for you, and they put their saddles on, and the innkeep, as well as the number of people that were sort of inside the bar, are now outside as you're mounting up, and he says, "Good luck, and may the gods be with you." And you head off into the distance, following the noblewoman and her carriage.
we must stop her before she gets to the city, or she'll disappear.
Well, there you have it, part 2 of the Dice Pool Podcast Live Play Edition. We all here at the podcast hope that you've enjoyed listening to it as much as we had creating it. So now that our heroes know that the mysterious noblewoman is behind the murders and is in all likelihood a vampire, will they be able to chase her down before she reaches Nerek Hall? And will the Dwarven alchemist make a brood capable of keeping them all awake? Find out the answer to these questions and more next time when the Dice Pool Podcast Live Play Edition returns for part 3 of The Haunted City. My thanks go to my players, Caitlin, Martin, Michael, and to our newest player, Madeline. It literally was not possible without them. The Dice Pool Podcast is a proud member of the D20 Radio Network, and you can learn more about the network at www.d20radio.com. I'm GM Hurley. Thanks for listening, and remember, the Dice Pool Podcast, where adventure is just a roll away.